Okay. So, what I like to do when I start is just remind everybody what the goals of Shepherd are for readers and authors. I've tightened up the ones for readers as I've done a lot of work this last year to talk to readers so that we know where we're going. The first one for readers is we want to be the go-to platform for readers to explore and track their to be read list. This is where we decided was the best place for Shepherd to play as we build out more of an app for readers. The second one is we want to be 100 times better at helping readers find books they will love. And I say that very aspirationally because that's where we are working with a lot of these features over the coming years to get to. And then the last one is we want to create fun and unique ways for readers to explore and discover books. And we want to do that with a sense of wonder and curiosity. So those are the things that guide us as we're building features. And everything we're building, we try to make sure that it's meeting one of those, if not multiple. For authors, you probably heard me say it a lot, but the main goal of Shepherd is to help authors get their books in front of the most likely readers for that book in free and fun ways. And we want to really do that in a way that engages the readers, like the book recommendation list, so that they become interested in you and your book. The second goal of ours is to create a platform that freely helps authors get more publicity with their book freely. In case I didn't say that, if it has that magic spark. So we want to identify, okay, these books are trending with readers. Let's help them get more publicity as they grow. So I like to remind everyone of that. So with that in mind, I'm going to go pretty quick. We're almost done with the book series pages. We're running a bit late on this one. We have all the design and the code done, but we hit a problem with pulling down the book series data. Book series data is not the most easily available. It's not really available from a publisher. We have to somewhat build it. We were using a provider and they have since gotten unfortunately bought by a private equity group, and that private equity group both raised prices and has really ruined aspects of the product that we were using, which is frustrating. So we're going to have to rebuild part of how we pull this book series data. I don't know exactly how long it takes. We just figured this out in the last week. I'm hoping it'll take one of our part-time devs about a month to basically replace the old API we were using. Once that's in place, we will roll out the book series pages, and of course, we'll email you so you can check them out. The cool thing about the book series pages is this is our first time to automatically create books in our system. And if you've been with us for a while, you know that even though about 80% of the process is automated, we still have a human who verifies a lot of the data, who goes and finds a high quality book cover so it's not blurry. So this was a really good practice run for us because as we get further along, when we say want to create an author page that has all your books on it, this is the work we needed to do. So that is one cool thing we're getting from this process. The second thing, as you can kind of see here in the mockups, is one of the things we are trying to do with everything we build is to help connect it back to the book list and help readers kind of sprawl out to where they want to go. So you can see this is an example of just the Jack Reacher series. And there's a button on the listing that says recommended on 5 book lists. And we're going to see how well this works to pull readers to also see what book lists and what other authors have recommended through those book lists around Jack Reacher like books. So that is going to be complete soon, but we got a bit of an unknown we're working on. The other thing we're going to be working on, well, that we are working on right now, is improving our personalized book recommendation email. Now, this email is still in kind of a testing phase, beta. The thing we're going to be working to add to it is allowing readers to choose their email frequency. So we have been sending it every week. We're going to switch it to allowing them to pick every week, every 2 weeks, every 3 weeks, every 4 weeks. And this is part of our move to build out a big email list so that we can help readers find books they will love through that. You can see an example from one of mine on the right side here. It brings readers to list, which is great for the whole site. Currently, we're seeing around 15% of readers clicking at least one bookstore link, and we're seeing around 4% to the author's promoted page. So that's really good. And we're seeing on average readers are viewing about 2.4 lists, which is also cool. So we're trying to get this up to 1,000 readers in the beta stage, make sure these numbers look good, make sure the format looks good before we really push it wider on the site to get a little bit more aggressive about collecting people's emails and showing them. And if you do want to test this out, I will just show you. if you go to shepherd.com, it's there's a My Book DNA. This is a pretty clunky sign up for now. We wanted to make it harder than normal. And basically, the reader currently puts in, three of their favorite books and authors, three of their favorite genre and topics. They get a little result page, and we invite them to sign up for a weekly email. So that's something we're going to be expanding on, but we're going to take a little time. It's going to cost about 2 weeks of work to add the ability they can set their frequency. And we're doing some things behind the scenes just to fine tune the test. So that's one of the things we are working on right now. The other big thing we're working on right now, I had talked about in the last one. We're running a little late on it, but we kind of got bogged down in some of the best books of the year stuff. So we're doing an absolute massive upgrade to our bookshelf section. To remind, the bookshelf section is looks like this currently. Currently, it is a page that's focused around a genre, a topic, or an age group. In this case, it's one aimed at kids' books. And it's a filter so that you can say, okay, I'm looking for kids' books, that are about animals. And it's going well. We see about a 30 to 60% uptake on the filters on most of these pages, and very happy with that. But we've done a lot of interviews with readers, and we've realized that what they want to see is a little bit different. So my goal with this grouping of books has always been that I want to make bookshelves like the absolute best place to discover that group of books. Because as a reader, I want to be, going here and finding, historic fiction or science fiction books in a lot of different ways. Right now, we do this around genre, topic, age group, but in this and later this year, we're going to be adding theme, trope, and mood as well. And so let me show you what this is going to look like a little bit. So the first page we're adding the bookshelves. You can see at the top we've got a new navigation bar. Keep in mind this is all fake data, and the proportions are a tad off versus a real web page because this is our design mockups that we make. So the first thing that all the readers wanted were the best books of all time, which is good because I know that a lot of readers say who don't read many books, they generally are looking for the ones that everybody talks about. Part of our goal is to help them get outside their silo. And so a lot of what we're doing down this left-hand side here is to help them sprawl a bit deeper. And you can't quite see it because the screenshot got cut off, but basically we can help them zoom in on a fiction or nonfiction if the shelf has both. We can do by age groups. Below that, will have by publishing year and then by decade. And then we're going to play with some other ones as we get going. And the goal here is so that if somebody comes in looking for science fiction books, the best ones of all time, sure, they have this big list, but then we're going to work real hard to get them to sprawl into, okay, well, show me the best science fiction books of the 1950s. Not in this update, but in an eventual update, it'll also be things like show me the best science fiction books that readers highlighted for world building, or show me the best biology books that were highlighted for what they taught me. We're going to play with some of these as we get going. The next page that we're adding is a trending page, and this is meant to help kind of churn the books within that category and highlight what readers are talking about. And so what we do is every month on the first of the month, we bring in the books that have been most mentioned from around the site into this space to try to give them some lift as well. And yeah. And I should say the trending one is also a first attempt to help us learn, but this is trying to give books that are getting mentioned by readers a bit more lift freely and help them, find readers when maybe they're not making the all-time best book list, but they are making this part. The next page is very similar to the best of all time, except it's new books. This is something that readers really requested. It basically highlights new books within that category that have been mentioned, and new books we use as the last 3 years because we don't want to make that just the last year. We want to have a bit more depth there, and it allows kind of similar descriptions. Um, the next one would be Book DNA, and this is the existing page on the site. That's just where we're moving it. And then we have lists by experts, or if this is a fiction grouping, it would be lists by fans. And we're starting pretty simple here. This is another way for us to highlight the lists that authors have made, and see how readers respond, because it's not necessarily something they know to look for, and we're slowly teaching them to go look for that. So we're going to see how this page goes, but it's going to highlight lists that are heavily contain books in this. So if you were looking at World War II books, it would only have World War II lists. And I'm going to skip facts and stories because we'll talk about that a little later. But right now, this is what one of our part-time developers is working on. I don't know exactly how long it'll take them. I'll know a little bit more in a couple weeks, but I would gather a few months, given this one's a big one. So, what's next? After they finish those two things, we are going to be doing some quick improvements to the Book Boost program, which is for paying founding members. Founding members pay us 50 or $100 a year, and that's what funds Shepherd's development. So Book Boost is like a free, well, it's one of the perks that comes with that. And we basically try to get their books in front of 100 to 200 readers who are the most likely to be interested in it each month. It's a way to just try to give them some extra publicity for their books. So we're going to do a short bit of work there. We've already done quite a bit to improve the targeting, but we're going to automate email stats. I've been doing those manually, and it's gotten to where I can't do them because there's so many. So we're going to be automating that. We're going to be improving the ad formats. We've been doing a real basic ad format because I wanted to build some more baseline data. And we've got a bunch of behind the scenes improvements we need to make. And then on the smaller side, we're going to launch a beta of a paid marketing plan because I've pulled all the display ads off the site and I want to replace those with book ads. So we're going to launch that. We've got 5 beta authors who are going to help us test it as we get that going. So I'm just going to show you what this ad looks like because this is also, we're going to bring this into the promoted spots for authors. I'm going to bring up this page. This is a mock-up as well of the book recommendation page, and it's got some improvements we made. So one thing we're trying is to figure out how we can better resonate with readers for an emotional, knowledge-based pitch, and see how do we pull them into a book. Like right now, we know that the book recommendation lists work great because it's a way for authors to share their expertise or their passion. And it's kind of like a mini interview, and the readers get more interested in that author and their book as they read this mini interview. So one thing we're trying to do is, okay, how do we extend that to ads a little more? So if you're scrolling down this page, what we've done is we're trying this ad format out, and we basically have a 10-word intro that we're hoping to see how well that pulls people in. Then they can click show book, at which point it expands, and we're going to see how well this works. We're also going to be bringing this to the promo spot, which is this one right up here. So you can see instead of saying, what is this book about, which is what we currently have, we're going to be doing an update at some point in the future where we can bring in a 10-word emotional pitch for the book and see how well that works. I'll show you where it also shows up at the bottom. So you can see here, that's the author who created this list. This is their book. So we're trying to do a very big 10-word pull in, and we're going to see how well this works. We'll be looking at click-through ratio and some other stats to see. So that's one of the next items we're going to get to. The other big item that we need to do next, and I talked about this in the video update I gave, I think 3 months ago. We just haven't quite gotten to it yet. It's on the next bit of work, is we need to improve the genre topic system. And currently we pull genre from publishers and they are pretty good, but we are noticing a fair number of problems in terms of accuracy. And it's nothing, they're not doing it necessarily on purpose, and it's just generally mistakes. But there's quite a bit of them, and they don't have much incentive to fix them because they don't realize that, many websites use this data to try to put this online. It's usually used internally at bookshops is what I think. So what we're going to do is we're going to redesign both these systems to improve the accuracy, especially on the topic side. Right now, I would say our topic accuracy is like a C minus on fiction and a B minus maybe on nonfiction. And we use something called natural language processing and machine learning. Now people call this AI. It's a silly buzzword, obviously. Basically, this looks at a sentence and it tries to determine what the sentence is about in order to decide what the book description is kind of talking about. That's a very basic description. So if you are tech, please don't yell at me about that. So we're going to improve both of those systems drastically by upgrading to some newer AI systems that are so helpful and amazing. It's quite good. Even in some of the tests I've been doing with genres, it has beaten the publisher data, which is pretty frustrating to see, but I can understand it. And then we're going to use this same moment to also include themes, tropes, and moods. And once we get this system out, it's so important because this powers the accuracy of all of Shepherd. If you've browsed around Shepherd a fair bit, you probably realize there is some inaccuracy in the way this system works. And that's generally because publishers have made a mistake or because our topic system didn't quite understand something. Sometimes it thinks, for example, Martin Luther King Jr. is the same as Martin Luther King, the Protestant Reformation founder. So we get some weird stuff like that. So this is a pretty big project, but I'm pretty excited about it. I've been doing tests with 50 test books, and so far I've been very impressed with the accuracy and what it's going to allow us to do. I'm going to share more of that as we get going on it as well. The other thing, I don't have exactly when we're going to do this year. This is a interesting facts and stories section. And I really wanted to ship this last year, and we just didn't have the resources to get it done. We will get it done this year. I'm not exactly sure how it's going to play in the order. I'll know more in a few months. But this is really aimed at nonfiction authors, and it's another format to try to help them bump into readers. It will also help historic fiction a bit and some fiction authors, but we're going to have to do something else for fiction authors long term to help them even more. So the goal of this is basically to talk to nonfiction authors who are experts on their fields and to gather facts and stories that will entice readers in some way. And just to explain how this is interesting is there were 50,000 people last month who searched just for World War II facts. There might be, I checked that data too, based on Google. There's maybe 3,000 to 6,000 people searching each month for facts about ants. So what we're trying to do is pull some interesting stuff from authors, and then when they open the fact, they will get a nice fact from an expert and somebody who's passionate about this, and then a nice pitch for the book to try to continue that pool of curiosity into the book. And I'm just going to show you the mock-up here. So it's the kind of thing where they click open, they get this. These are all test data, by the way, and then it leads right into the book. So I'm pretty excited about this. I'm a big history nut, so this kind of thing appeals to me, especially because it's verified as well a fair bit. So that's kind of a quickish preview of what we're working on now. I'm going to spend a little time talking about our big focus for readers, and then we'll get to Q&A. So one of the big focus for us is to build an app where readers can explore and track their to be read pile. And I know this is not going to appeal to everybody, but for example, for myself, when I find a book that I want to read, I dump it into a spreadsheet where I keep a big list of all these books, and I know a lot of other readers do as well. This is a really great place for Shepherd to play. I spent a lot of time trying to figure out where we wanted to go for the user apps side of things. I don't want to be a book tracking app. Generally, when I go interview readers, 99% of them, that's the only reason they're using Goodreads is because it allows them to track books. And there's already two good website startups doing book tracking, Storygraph and Hardcover.app. They are both excellent. They have duplicated what Storygraph is doing. They're focused purely on book tracking. Shepherd, I want to focus on book discovery and helping readers meet authors and books that they don't know about yet, because I don't think anybody's really working on that. And that's just where I want to be. So we are going to end up doing book tracking, but I explain this way because that is not the heart of Shepherd. That we will do book tracking, but that is not our focus. It will be more simplistic book tracking, like Storygraph and Goodcover. They allow you to record exactly how many pages you're reading in each night, and we're not going to do that. So this is a really good place for us because it's when readers decide the next book they're going to read. It's a really good time for us to be involved in helping them, because that also is a point at which we can help them meet new authors and new books. So if I'm going to this app and I say, okay, show me all the books in my TBR list that are science fiction, and I say, well, that's none of those are really grabbing me. Shepherd is thus one click away from helping them find a book elsewhere on the site. And that's why we want to live in this space. The second reason is the data we collect from the TBR pile allows us to provide better recommendations, book recommendations for that person and readers like them. And on the flip side, it also is going to help us know what are the most likely readers for your book. It's kind of the same side of the coin. So yeah, that's why we're working on it. The goal with this app, as this will be the second part of this year and into 2026, is we want to make it really easy for readers to throw books into their TBR pile, but to then make it really fun to explore what they want to read next. So we're going to make it really easy to sort it by genre, topic, theme, trope, mood, age group, author, etc. We're going to do some things like helping them keep track of book series they're reading. Eventually, we'll be doing things like show me all the science fiction books that were loved for characters that are in my list. And we'll try to get more personalized as we keep going down this in the coming years. So I'll have some mock-ups probably in 3 or 4 months as we test this on readers. I've had a fair number of readers who are interested in helping us test because they're already running something like this on a spreadsheet, but it's not the most intuitive or easy to use. So yeah, that's what we're going to be doing. This work will also include us building a database of all books as part of this work because we'll need that. So that's a good step for the back end of the application because that is also the same stuff that will allow us to eventually make a full author page that includes all of an author's books in our system and doing some things right now that we just weren't capable of with our financial resources and dev resources in the early years. So yeah. And of course, the flip side of this is once they go through their TBR list to decide what they're reading next, they will be able to market what they're reading. They'll be able to market once they read it, and they'll be able to add a book DNA review, which is our book DNA review format. And most of 2026, as we get more of this done, is going to be focused on trying to figure out how we can help them celebrate the books they really love if they want. And also, the focus will be on how do we beautifully show off the books they read if they want to do that. Obviously, you've seen what we did with the best book recommendation list and the favorite 3 reads of the year. This will be kind of more of the same, but helping readers show off what they're reading as well. And the last thing I should mention is obviously, oop, that's not what I want to. Obviously, not all readers will use this. We focus on the power readers, the super readers who are already doing something like this, and then we will, that will bring in also a certain amount of casual readers, and we're hoping to kind of keep it going that way. So we'll focus on power readers, but it'll also work really well for casual readers as we bring them in. And we'll just have to learn and see how that goes. So that was a huge data dump. I'm a little slower than I had hoped. Um, but yeah, I will open it up to questions. You can put it in chat or you can unmute and ask if you want to do voice. Thanks. So I'm going to start with Donna. Ask a question. Oh, no, she did. Sorry. Cool. Yeah, thanks. So yeah, any questions on it can be anything I talked about or you're wondering about in Shepherd in general or so on.
Yeah, can I ask a question?
Or yeah.
A couple of questions, actually. I'm curious about the demographics of your readers, because
Yeah.
that will help us to, for someone like me who writes in multiple genres, that will help me to determine which books I want to promote on Shepherd.
Yeah, yeah. I've got a bit of a breakdown on the traffic section of the FAQ. Um, just in terms of geography, everybody who visits the site obviously speaks English. But in terms of demographics, we got a bit here. Are you more interested in like genre, that kind of breakdown?
Yeah, I'm more interested in genre.
Yeah, so it's all genres. That's one of the challenges of Shepherd, and we are looking at how we might be able to track something like that. But we get like our front page is, I think, only about 5% of the way people enter the site. A huge number of the people entering the site are coming in via search, social media, and then thousands and thousands of websites and other weird methods. So what they're coming in on is on the list. They're coming in on bookshelves. So it's so spread out. We have 3,500 bookshelves. We have 10,000 book lists, et cetera, et cetera. So it's very hard for me to say, okay, well, science fiction is this much because it's such a diverse range of pages. I don't currently have a way to associate
Sure.
those, if that makes sense. But I'm
Okay,
working on something eventually there. I just think it's going to take a couple years.
okay, I have a few more questions, but I'll let somebody else
Yeah.
ask other questions first.
Yeah, I'm wondering about you could talk about the difference between topic and genre.
Hmm.
Um, I'm working with the BISIC topic list,
Yeah.
but the BISIC topic list has romance as a topic. but everybody treats romance as a genre.
Yeah,
Um,
we use
yeah, so
BISEC as
how
genre.
do you deal with that? Yeah.
Yeah, we use it purely as genre. Our topic system currently, it pulls from Library of Congress as a definitive source, and then it goes to what I hate to call AI, but I will. And when it does that, if we have Library of Congress data, we put it in the top, obviously, because they are humans and they're accurate. And then AI goes below that, and we try to assess, okay, what's the strongest connection? But yeah, BSAC data would go into genre. And to stipulate, bookshelves, and I'll show you because this is actually really interesting. Bookshelves are like a recipe maker. So I will show you real quick because I think this is interesting. This is the back end of Shepherd. So what's a good one to do? Yeah, let's do romance. So we use recipes to build bookshelves. Now, sometimes it's one to one. Sometimes B6 says, here's all the science fiction books. And we're like, great. But sometimes we need to, like, here's space opera romance. That's a whole segment. There's like thousands of people that search each day to try to find, okay, show me space opera that's heavy on the romance. So when we create that, we have this little sources area and we can do a variety of sources because we're trying to build a lot of different ways to profile these books to help improve discovery. So right now, for example, this one, we take all the books that have been marked space opera and genre, but then we refine them to limit it to only books that are also marked romance. And this is basically how we construct our bookshelf so we can do some really wacky things based on what we see people looking for. So I hope that helps. It's kind of a recipe maker. Some of them are one to one, some aren't.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
It
Hmm.
looks like Deb Vance was next, and I had
Yeah,
my hand raised.
yeah, go for it. Yeah, yeah.
You're muted, Deb. No, you want
Oh,
me to
here.
talk or her?
No,
No,
no.
yeah, we'll have Deborah. Yeah, go for it,
Yeah.
Deborah.
There's a link on the library thing page about sharing your
Oh, yeah.
page,
Hmm.
and it's linked to Twitter. And I know many people who've left Twitter and are on Blue Sky, so I was wondering if you could also link it to Blue Sky.
Yeah, on this page, was it this little thing here?
Um, no, it wasn't that.
Was
Shoot.
was it on the
Um,
footer, maybe?
no, it's up on the top of the page
Oh,
on
yeah, yeah, yeah.
on my
It's the
profile.
four authors. No, no.
And and maybe LinkedIn would be another place that people could link to. Let me
Yeah, yeah. I'll make a note of that. Hold on one second. I'm on Blue Sky. It's more that some of the places you see why have we not converted Twitter to X and stuff? Is I don't really want to change the name because I think that's a bit
oh,
silly. Eventually we
yeah.
will, but it's also that some of the software that we use hasn't switched over. So yeah, we will do that. And Blue Sky is coming in terms of that, especially on the share page, because I'll go back to this. This is one of the first times we've kind of got those on the page to test. And we will add Blue Sky there as well. This was
Okay,
just a design mock-up, so our designer threw that in there.
cool.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a question about how you're pulling those. You had mentioned using Amazon and others. One of the things that we found with our books is what Amazon thinks they are and what they in fact are is is off. Like ours are
Yeah.
historical fiction, a historical fantasy, and it like I've done all the keywords and tried to kind of push them into um,
Yeah.
recognizing what they are. And I've been super frustrated by that. You know, when you do your keyword thing in Amazon, I'm wondering, is there a way for us to input or provide feedback on that for our own books?
Yes. Yeah. So let me but first I've done a test with 50 books, then we're gonna go to a mass test of 1,000 to see how the system generally holds up. Once I feel like we have, okay, this is looking good, I will email authors on the newsletter. I don't know when yet, but at least a couple months out, probably three or four. I will email everybody to do another test run with your books. So it'll be something where I email you and say, hey, tell me your book and let's run it and see what we get back, and you tell me if it sucks or not. Um, Long term, The first version of this system will not allow much editing. And primarily that is because we're doing a lot. I was going to show you a book entry too. Primarily that's because one of the harder things we're doing right now is trying to figure out how to define what a trope and a theme and a mood is for those things. And genre too. And so what we don't want is that books have individual tropes because that's not useful. We need them to have some type of shared, and we're going to have to figure out how to do that and how well it works. That's one of the big unknowns still on our list. Because we don't want a book coming back with just that's the only book that has that trope because that doesn't help people find it. So once we get some of that nailed down, we will allow authors to change these and have input to a certain extent. I am hoping to eventually. I've shared some screenshots and some newsletters in the past showing the dashboard I would like to build for authors. I was trying to build that this year, and I realized we just couldn't do it currently with the current resources we have. So eventually, I want to build a dashboard where authors can go in and have control of their books to edit these kind of things, and then we will still apply a level of, I don't know if you want to call it editing on top because we have had some issues in the past when we did that. But yeah, eventually I want to give authors access, and we will definitely have a testing phase where you can see how it goes, and we'll get feedback. Does that answer? Sorry, I should go down here too. Just to mention that, here's book topics for June with our system, how we've tried to do it, and here's genres. How we kind of define them in our system as well. Sorry, did that answer your question fully? So good.
Yes, it
Okay.
did. Sorry, I was doing the thumbs up, but you're
Okay. I couldn't find
I'm
the
in
video.
Zoom
Thank you.
meetings a lot, so I do a
Okay.
lot of the, yeah, okay.
Okay. Cool. And then let me just jump to one in chat real quick. Sandra, yeah, I work with a ton of academic books as well, and authors, especially on kind of niche subjects. So we will definitely be doing another round with them. And Judith asked, can authors still add book recommendations? I think I missed that. Yeah, definitely. We have the book recommendation format, which at forauthors.shepherd.com, you can always, find that there. And the only limit on that one is that we can only do one paired with your book. So it's one list per book. And we don't do sequels currently. And I've got more info on why, if you're curious. Diana asked, oh, yeah, good question. Diana asked, who will make up the 10-word promotional type bit here? So once we have this in place, I will email all authors to let them know, and they can give it to us then. I don't know exactly when this will be, but of course it will be you creating it. And then I will update the new forms and everything else so that authors can input it when they're filling out a new list. So it'll be authors doing that. If they want help, we will help as well. Yeah, it is an art, I will say. I know people might have some different reactions on AI, but I will say asking AI to give 10 of these for a book is pretty good, even as a marketer who enjoys doing some of that. Although I'm not the best at copywriting, it was helpful. But yeah, this one, for example, is one that Ben provided that he uses in a lot of his marketing, for example. Yeah, Hall, you want to go?
Yeah, hi. I just saw the question that someone else asked. The question I wanted to ask is, what's the benefits of a form of membership?
Yeah. So the founding membership, the benefit is that it basically pays for everything we're building, and then it comes with some perks. So there's a bit more info here on the membership page. I need to update this. The whole back site is getting an update over the next couple weeks. But the big benefit is our Book Boost program. And it's basically these ads that you can see on the site. They look like this right now. And it's basically that each month, if you're on the $50 a year plan, as a big thank you for helping make Shepherd possible, is we try to get your book in front of the 100 most likely readers for it each month, as long as you're a member. And if you are on the $100 plan, it's 2 books, or you can double up for 1 book. So it gets 200, exposures to readers every month. So that's one of the big perks. The other stuff is we have a separate newsletter that authors get from me that just goes into a bit more detail, that kind of thing. And I'm working on more perks to highlight founding members and playing with ideas as we get going.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Yeah.
Ben,
Yeah.
Ben,
Hey, Larry.
I'm just, yeah, I'm just wondering about doing something like this, making authors available to talk to readers
Mhm.
as events that I'm sure that you have plenty of authors who probably do this. If sometimes I've talked to book clubs where there'd be 50 people who come because they've read the book, and then you come in and talk to them, and it's quite an interesting experience, especially for people who have read the book, not just to listen to you promote your book. Is it any way you think that that could become part of what you're doing?
Yeah, and that's been on my list for a while. I'll tell you, it's still there. It's going to be there for a while. The hardest part is during testing and from talking to a lot of authors who have tried this is that readers will rarely attend if they don't know the author. It's one of those terrible catch-22s where the people that most need to talk to readers can't because they don't have a fan base. And the authors who have the fan base, they get a nice sales bump from those type of AMAs or similar. So I basically hit a wall on it. I felt like we couldn't do anything right now there. And part of that is because when you have a website like ours, even though it's getting millions of visitors, converting somebody from a passive visitor to an active member is very hard. And that's like the next stage of our development. So now we have to turn those visitors into people that want to track their TBR, to want to track their reads and leave a review. And then as we move down that chain in the coming years, I hope to look at doing something like that. But right now, it just isn't something we couldn't get 10 people in a room for an author. It's still connected to their fan base is the problem we had. Um, that's basically what I ran into is we just couldn't have an impact there. And it wasn't something I felt like we could scale very well. You know, I think where this gets more beneficial is many years down the road, is that if we have a user base and we can say, okay, we have 10,000 hardcore fantasy fans. These are people that are always looking for new authors who you want to get in front of, who really spread word of mouth. Then we can say like, hey, we've got a new author who wrote this fantasy book. We're going to do an event where they answer questions or something like that. It's a little easier sometimes on nonfiction to get people interested if it's about a topic they're interested in. But I think we'll play with that long term. But I just don't see us being able to have a real impact there over the next 2 or 3 years. Here's the bummer. Yeah. I'll just answer one in chat. Oh yeah, go ahead, Deborah.
I have a question, and it's in chat too. But
Yeah.
who decides the categories? You might have said that, but it passed me by. So best books about 1960s, 1970s, best books about romance, whatever. Who decides
Yeah.
those categories? And can we suggest them to somebody to
So
use?
so like on this page or more the bookshelves?
Um, I I don't know. I mean, isn't it the same everywhere? Like best books
Yeah, yeah.
about
So this is a book recommendation list. So that on this one, the authors pick because it's meant to be a topic, theme, or mood that is very close to their book, so that the people coming to their list are also going to be interested in their book. So for this one, the authors choose. For the bookshelves, for example, those are all things that I create, and authors can email me if I'm missing one they want to see, and I create those. So those are things like fantasy, space opera romance, World War II, Battle of the Bulge, those kind of things. So if I'm missing one, let me know, and I can see if I can make it. Right now, the bookshelves. So yeah, hopefully that answers kind of the difference. Yeah.
So if I wanted to say best books about feminism in the 70s or
Mhm.
something like, would I put that on my page and then list them?
Yeah, yeah, and I'll show you. So if you go to For Authors and up here on How Can I Make Readers, you click them in, recommend 5 books. This will kind of walk you through the format a bit more. And then it's got a link here, and you can email Kathy and I. It's got a separate email, forauthors@shepherd.com, and we'll send you this Word doc template. And then you just fill that out and send it back to us. And it walks you through that process and how you name it.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
Thanks.
yeah, no problem. Um, so Brenda asked in chat, will you ever build a feature to let authors flag when they have a promotion so that authors get a discounted or free book? Yeah, I'd like to build that. Once again, it's kind of similar to Larry's, where I want us to have an active user base so that we have the right place to put that. Um, I've looked at, Storygraph is doing book giveaways and some others, and I've looked at how well that works with how much traffic and that kind of thing. It wouldn't have a big impact right now with how our site works, considering our site is like really heavily readers looking for books and authors they don't know as well. But yeah, I'd like to add that eventually. I don't know when that would be, but at least 2 years out, because we really need an active user base before that makes sense to me. From data I've looked at and so on, I just don't think we would get many takers and on that. Okay, and Diane asked, I hope I'm saying that right. Diane, she mentioned you were going to promote top books talked about. What about books that are great but don't make your list? How can you promote them piecing? Okay. So I think Diana's here asking, I talked about one of our goals for authors is to help promote books that have that magic spark with readers and to try to get them more and more publicity over time. That's really one of the key goals of the platform, because what I don't like heavily about Amazon and some of the others, and generally book marketing right now, is it's really a winner takes all market. So we're trying to figure out ways to help readers go deeper, help them bump into authors they haven't heard about. So we have a ton of stuff on the site trying to do that. For example, the best books of the year that we have running is trying to do that. And then just go, oops. And then the other thing is I'll go back here, is this trending page. We're trying to get more and more features. So the trending page in the new bookshelves is trying to do that, as is new books. And these are both places where we're trying to highlight books that readers are starting to talk about, so that we can help them, because we're trying to really help authors move up the ladder. So because it's such a graveyard for how do you get noticed in this world. So we're trying to say, okay, like how do we get them to meet their first 100 readers who are not family and friends? How do we get a book that readers are starting to love and talk about? How do we get more readers to see it? So that's what we're trying to work up. And all these things are trying to do that by highlighting them a little bit more when they are talked about. Mark, go ahead. Oh, Mark, you might have to unmute. Tell me if you want me to unmute you.
There we go. Sorry about that.
Yeah. No, no worries.
This is kind of a specific question. I was just looking at on my page, the topics related to Mark David Gerson's books, and one of them made perfect sense, and one of them made no
Yeah.
sense to me at all.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering how that is, how that's selected. If you scroll down to the bottom,
Yeah.
writer's block makes sense. The United
Yeah.
Kingdom makes no sense at all.
Yep. So topics are our weakest area, especially for fiction, because it's using natural language processing to do topics, which is basically, well, yeah. So it's just not very accurate. So what it's doing here for an author is it takes an author's books that we have in the system, and it smashes all the books, genres, and authors together, and then it says, okay, well, the people looking for this author might be interested in these things. So it's just due to one of your books is getting tagged United Kingdom. My guess is that one of your books talks about a king or queen, and the AI system is real stupid. And it's saying, oh, that's United Kingdom, because one of the things we started out with our topic system is we tried to tie it to Wikipedia entries. So it's a very logical system in terms of it's always thinking about what's an encyclopedia entry, but it really struggles with fiction, which is talking about sandworms or, the Queen of the Fairies. And so that's where this system needs an upgrade that we're about to work on. And we're also going to detach it from Wikipedia slightly, not for the nonfiction side, because that's part of our long-term plan to do some really cool Wikipedia integration on that side. But yeah, that's why some of that is inaccurate, especially topics are notoriously bad if it's fiction.
And that probably comes from the fantasy books.
Yes.
Because yes, there are kings. Okay, that doesn't make any sense, but it explains it at least.
Yeah,
Thank
it's
you.
also why it's the bottom one. Yeah, so we've moved that to the
Right.
bottom until we can fix it, and then it's going to start coming once we get it a little bit tuned in. Yeah.
Great, thank you.
Yeah. Cool. And Paula asked in chat, any plans for free short stories as ebooks to act as reader magnets for a novel, like Free Fiction Day or Free Fiction Page on the site? That is interesting on ads or something like that, but yeah, no plans currently because I do feel like we need an active user base, and also for our own financial survival. We are heavily focused on how do we get readers in the system, how do we turn those readers and give them something of such great value that they also are paying us $50 a year because we need that money because that's what funds all our development. So for the time being, we are laser focused on features that help authors with those goals, but also for the next 2 years, it's how do we build an app that readers love to use, and get them in the system, build a relationship with them, and then we can start looking at, okay, what else makes sense given what we're trying to do around book discovery. But yeah, no plans for the next 2 years at least, unless we have a dramatic spike in signups and we can hire another part-time developer or full-time developer. Yeah. Any other questions or anything else you'd like to see? Give it a second.
I'd just like to say that it's very exciting how you are planning to help authors that have a hard time getting the visibility and notice. It seems to be that is the biggest challenge for me, to be quite honest. So that's very exciting, and I will look forward very much to the developments in the future. And thanks for explaining what you've got in the works.
Yeah. Yeah. And just one example, I forgot to mention that I know all authors talk to me about how hard it is to get Amazon reviews because you need a certain number of reviews for that system to really start working for you. So one of the cool things is if we're doing a good job of tracking people's to be read piles and they're recording their reads through us, is I really want to do something then that when they review a book on Shepherd, we also encourage them and make it easy for them to add that review to Amazon and explain why that's important. Because I mean, I talked to so many authors who, just getting over 50 reviews just to get the bare minimum, where people will consider trying the book at a greater number. It's so hard, it's such a slog. So yeah, that stuff really is on the top of my head as we get further along. And then Jonathan in chat asked, did you just say that readers pay to use the site? So similar to the founding authors program, we have a program for readers that we launched in October. I just decided, well, I've gotten requests from this. So readers can also become a member. I'll show you this page. I think, yeah, still sharing. So we also have readers who want to support what we're building. I think right now we have 18 readers who signed up since October, which is awesome considering that we don't currently offer anything besides our huge thank you. And they're part of a newsletter where they can see what we're building for readers and similar type of stuff. Eventually, I will have more of a paid product for readers. So when we get further along with the to be read list, probably in 2026, we will have like pro features that for $25 or $50 a year, they get access to, and we'll figure out what those are as we test with people. Since I'm in the EU, it's showing this, but yeah, we do have a certain number of signups that come in each month for readers who want to help support what we're building.
I'd just like to say thank you for all you've been doing.
Oh, thanks, Joel. It's been really fun
Yeah,
building.
I second it. It's quite impressive that you're doing this. Where you're doing it, and that you're basically alone doing it. It's remarkable. It's very
Thanks.
difficult to find readers. I mean, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
What we're doing out here. I count my book sales by ones and twos. And on Amazon, and it's just it's very hard to find the platform that will introduce you to in your books to a bunch of new readers. So I'm rooting for your success.
Yeah, thank you.
I think we all are.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks. My brother, one of the reasons I started this too is my brother is a writer. And so I saw when he wrote one of his first books and how hard it was in general. So it's been helpful to have his input. as I build things too. But yeah, I'm hoping to figure out as we get further along more ways to really help that initial bit too. I know there's just to mention there's a really cool French website. I've talked to the founders a few times. They're like the Goodreads of France. And they're doing some really cool stuff. And one of the things they do is even things like helping authors, get exposure to, like, they'll go find, okay, here are 50 readers who read a book that's very similar to yours. Let's pitch them and see if they'll read it and then leave reviews on the site.
Hmm.
And they're doing some cool things like that, which, I would love to be in the position in 2 years to do something like that, because I think those direct pitches work so well. Like if I'm on a site and somebody can, in a very controlled manner, but if somebody can pop up with something and say, hey, you liked the science fiction book Bobiverse, which I think you would really like this book, and it's a bit more authentic. I think that can really be a good thing, and it could be a good thing to get feedback as well.
Ben, one of my concerns was in is sending you my credit card. I think I've talked to you
Yeah.
about this, as far as how do we subscribe to it? Because if you wanted to make it a permanent, a yearly thing, that means that card's on file in your system. And
Yeah.
and how do we protect that? I've been
Yeah.
hacked. I mean, UCLA gets hacked, and then health systems get hacked, and we're always dealing with that situation.
Yeah.
And that's always been my concern about, putting something out in the internet there with your
Yeah,
credit.
I've have a lot of experience with billing systems, unfortunately. So I don't touch your credit card. I can't see it, nothing else. So I actually use third parties, PayPal and Stripe. So Stripe is who runs payment for large segments of the entire e-commerce infrastructure. Stripe is a giant private company. They'll probably go public later this year. They're valued at 80 billion. They're amazing. I can't stress that enough. So all, like, in the early days of the internet, it was terrible. People were storing credit cards and plain text and everything else. At this point, PCI compliance is very tight. The credit card companies have done a really good job with it. And in order to even access or store credit cards, you have to pass so many tests. It's very stringent. So I'm not even involved on that because it just goes straight to Stripe when you sign up. And Stripe handles everything from storing the card, doing the yearly charges, et cetera, et cetera. And they just have a really nice API that developers use. So Stripe has never been hacked. Usually, if you hear about the hack, it's unfortunately older infrastructure, hospitals, universities, government, telecom. But anybody using Stripe should be absolutely safe I mean, your credit card, at least, it's very encrypted and stored. But they're the best, absolutely the best. So yeah, I have no worries about storing my credit card with them. You'll find that you'll notice after a while that a lot of checkouts look similar on e-commerce and everything else, and it's because they're all using Stripe, for example, if they're using Shopify or e-commerce. But yeah, they're great. Most of that is tucked away at this point. I can't even see your card, like, to look up to help people. I have to tell them, well, you got to log in, and I can help you, like, with this or that. But so yeah, yeah, it's one area the internet's actually gotten a bit better. Oh, yeah, the French website. Somebody asked, what's the name of that French Goodreads? I mean, they're doing it good, obviously, with French readers. So it's not super helpful unless you're writing in French. Send me an email, Diana, and I'll try to dig it up. I can't remember it off the top of my head. Oh, being translated. Vicky says, okay. Yeah, send me an email, ben@shepherd.com, and I will find that. I just can't remember right now. I'm pretty fried. If you can tell, I was sick all this week with a terrible cold. Paula asked, what can we do to promote Shepherd? The best thing is links, and just mention it to other authors. Is very appreciated. If an author doesn't know about us and wants to create a list or just check us out, or if you have a reader that's interested, I'm going to be trying to do more to make it. We just did a referral program. We put that together for the best books of the year. So you can refer friends. And the cool thing about if you refer friends and you're an author, we basically we feature your book on a lot of their pages. Now, we only have one page doing this right now because this is brand new. But I talked about this in the newsletter, but if a reader is referred by an author, then when they do their three favorite reads and other future features, because we know this author referred this reader, is we usually have a promo spot at the bottom. Like this is showing my project since I'm tagged as an author, but it would show your book here. And I think I mentioned that for the three favorite reads is it's a way to, okay, if you're going to refer your fan base to us, we will then make sure that your book is shown in the promotional spots. So yeah. So that's something I hope to keep expanding on as we grow, because we have that permanently stored in the back end for who referred who. Because eventually I want to try. We also did this for influencers, book reviewers, and so on. So we'll do more of that long term. But we want to help give some incentives for authors who eventually are referring more of their fan base to Shepherd as we build out more features.
So the site to refer it, it's just shepherd.com. That's it to refer.
Yeah, there's actually a URL you use, and it's got basically like the little code that is how we track it was you. So it'll be like you can add this part right here. You can add to the end of any Shepherd URL, and once you log in, it's just under refer friends. So you can add this to any URL at Shepherd when you link to it. Like say you're writing a link to your own book recommendation list, anything else. If the person creates a user account, we tag them as, oh, this author referred them.
So we have to go on the site to go to this to get to refer friends, and up will come that with a referral number.
Yeah, correct.
Okay.
Yep, and we'll keep mentioning this too. Like when we get the TBR beta launched or something like that further along, we usually send a complete URL like this one to that, so that authors automatically can just share it. As we ship new features, we will try to do that better and better. But we had a good. I think we had at least 1,000 to 1,500. I can't remember off the top of my head referrals this year for the best books of the year program. So that was cool to see. Not all the author readers who were referred took part, but we had a good 800 who did, and they also sometimes referred their friends. So that was cool to see.
Okay, good idea.
Cool. Well, anything else anybody was curious on?
Keep up the good work.
Thanks.
Yeah. Thank you again.
Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. Great.
Yeah. Cool.
Just the beginning.
Okay. Well, if anybody thinks of any questions, ben@shepherd.com, feel free to email me. Yeah. Thank you and have a good rest of your day. Oh, I will mention I'm going to do a book marketing Zoom event in early April, but I'll email everybody. But I realized I should have been doing one of those a while back. So I am putting that together just to kind of bring in the stuff I've learned and what I've heard from authors that are willing to share everything. And I will do one of those in early April.